Hello, I'm Chris Morrison. I spoke with Dmitri Atapine about the wonderful concert Season Preamble, happening on September 14th at the Folly Theater.
We are doing kind of a welcome to our audience with the complete set of five sonatas for piano and cello by Ludwig van Beethoven. This is a massive undertaking. It's about 2.5 hours of music. The reason that we think this is an extremely special experience is that, as you know, Beethoven is famous for having these incredible cycles in his lifetime, right? And so we speak of Beethoven's symphonies, the nine symphonies. We speak of the 16 string quartets. We speak of the 32 piano sonatas. And so Beethoven is like an encyclopedia of these different genres, 10 violin sonatas. Of all these genres that he created, the only one that can be considered of a reasonable one setting length is the cycle of five sonatas for piano and cello. If you want to do a cycle of piano sonatas, of which there are 32, you probably need 8, 9, 10 concerts. Now, for cellists, of course, we're jealous of this wealth of repertoire, but at the same time, we see the plus in this, and that is you can take with us the journey through the entire landscape of Beethoven's creative output, of his life, in one single afternoon in a kind of comprehensive way. Beethoven wrote five sonatas for the combination of cello and piano, and I'm very careful to not call them just cello sonatas. It's a shorthand, but piano is the primary instrument in pretty much all of them, because the piano is the instrument that Beethoven most identified himself with. The interesting thing here is that Beethoven himself, in the titles of the sonatas, writes a sonata for piano and cello, sonata for keyboard and cello, mandatory, obligato, right? So there's a little bit of a hint there. Beethoven wrote five, as I mentioned, and they very neatly follow in the periods of his life that many musicologists address, and we have simply called the early, the middle, and the late period, or as I like to call them, the student exploration, the establishment of genius period, the early one, the heroic one, the middle one, the one that we perhaps most associate Beethoven's most groundbreaking works with, like the Third Symphony, the Fifth Symphony. And then we have the late, the transcendental, the one that looks into the past and the future, that looks into the meaning of life and the meaning of humanity. Two sonatas are early. Beethoven himself was kind of establishing his name as a composer, and he is very much looking to the grand masters of Mozart and Haydn. And guess what? They didn't write cello sonatas, so he is kind of establishing a new voice and a new genre by writing these two early cello sonatas. They're phenomenal. The piano has an incredibly virtuosic part, and you can also hear a certain desire to give himself a stage and a prominence as a young budding pianist, virtuoso composer, establishing a voice in the world of classical music. The middle sonata, the A major third sonata, is very interesting because the opus number is opus 69, and it's just over from the Fifth Symphony. This is the pair work of the Fifth Symphony, the most famous work that Beethoven ever wrote, the most gigantic, groundbreaking C minor to C major. Here we have a conversation between the cello and piano, and Beethoven actually establishes a complete equality between the two instruments for the very first time. He's so careful to give the cello and the piano equal billing, equal prominence, an extremely conversational character, something that is so effortless in his hands, and yet that has not been achieved by pretty much anyone prior. And then we have the two late sonatas, both of smaller scale, both looking into the past, inspired perhaps by the works of Renaissance composers, by the works of early Baroque composers. We are revisiting forms that I won't bore you with, but things like the Church Sonata or the Sonata da Chiesa, Sonata da Camera. The last sonata finishes with this most brainy of all art forms associated with the name of Johann Sebastian Bach, which is the fugue. So he writes a fugue for cello and piano. No one's ever done that before. And yeah, you can see his worry about the legacy and the future of music, and perhaps that imprint that his tradition, his incredible, innovative, and groundbreaking mind will leave on generations of composers to follow. So yes, to grab all of that and encapsulate it into 2.5 hours of music is something that is given to us cellists as a gift by Ludwig van Beethoven. And it can be experienced with this very juicy and very filling bite, but just one visit into the concert hall with 2 intermissions.
As long as you and Heian are up for the idea of playing such concentrated music over a 2.5 hour span, because that is a lot. It is, a as you say, a beautiful portrait of Beethoven's career, both where he began and where he was headed, especially in Opus 102 number 2, the second of the later sonatas, where with the fugue movement that you mentioned, the fugue becomes important in Beethoven's later works as well. So you're getting kind of the breadth of Beethoven's career in one evening.
Absolutely. And this, you mentioned this, a feat for both of the performers, but I think that what's really incredible is also the wealth of information that the audience will get from experiencing this concert. It is kind of a wonderful tour of a museum of Beethoven's life. And I kind of look at it like that. 2.5 hours actually seems like a very palatable visit to some of our great museums, and you can walk through the front door, experience all these different early works, then go into the middle and experience the groundbreaking genius of Beethoven, and then look at the legacy he leaves in the future of classical music. That's one in a lifetime opportunity. And I have to say, as performers, Dmitri and Heian, we don't get many chances to do this kind of monumental approach to programming. And yet we think that this is one of the most exciting things about music and about Beethoven that we can share with our followers.
Dmitri Atapine talking about the season preamble concert happening on Sunday, September 14th at 3 p.m. at the Folly Theater. Chambermusic.org for tickets and information.